Is it just another Verso? Right, now there's two of me. Excellent. Look at that lighting on the room though, like actually. This looks so insane like when I was watching the VOD. It happens somewhere here. Like look at this. It's normal about at this point. It looks pretty much identical to what we have right now. At like, you know, 5:37. Then when we go like 20 minutes to half an hour forward, look at the hue of blue in this.
Complicated.
That looks so sick actually. The highest for now. It creates such like an ethereal background, you know? Fits so well like in Spice or something, you know? Completely unintended also. Like just compare these two. Like that is just looks really damn cool. I wish I was like I wish I had something to intentionally produce this kind of background. You know, without spending any fucking configuration, my time or whatever the heck into planting lights in the room that make it look like this. Infinitely more difficult to pull off. But yeah, that looks really nice. Yeah, I guess we can close this. Right, so let's open the game first, okay. I'm gonna open the game and go back to the camp, and then I'm gonna explain my thoughts of what this title means, because you might be curious. This game has possibly been my favorite world behind its story I have ever laid my eyes on. And that is not an exaggeration. Now, for anybody wondering, which they likely do, because I have never really exactly stated this anywhere, but I have pretty strong nostalgia towards stories like Narnia or Alice in the Wonderland, for example, that I saw as a kid. So any kind of stories that mimic or put a spin on the same kind of premise that, you know, those two like worlds have in them are incredibly fascinating to me. Just the mere concept of being able to walk from your world into an absolute like make-believe world that is both, you know, created inside like fantastical elements or fantastic elements, fantasy elements and fantastical elements, like that is incredibly interesting to me. Always has been. So this game's story, right? How do I explain this as simple as possible? So, Verso, the Sandre family, how it works, is in their world, they have a husband and a wife, which is Renoir and Aline. And then they have 3 children, 3 siblings. Oldest one is likely Verso and Clair. Not sure which one of them is the oldest one, but they are the older compared to, you know, Alicia. Then Alicia is the youngest one, which is same age roughly as Mile in this story, to my understanding. That we have, you know, somewhere like in her adolescent years. Late teenage years maybe or something like that. And they, in their real world, there's some kind of accident, a fire that breaks out. That is the fault of Alicia. That this game has insinuated very strongly. So Alicia somehow causes a fire inside the manor. And Verso, for some reason, he saves his sister, but he is engulfed in flames himself and loses his life. So he saves his sister and he dies for it. Their mother, Aline, can't accept this resolution. And as a paintress herself, who paints with supernatural paint of some kind that is never gonna be explained, she has created many beautiful and intriguing paintings inside her manor throughout her life. And she taught the art of painting the way that she does to her children as well as her husband, Renoir. And when Verso lost his life, Aline drowns in sadness, and she's unable to get over the grievance or the mourning of her son, because she has a very close relationship to all of her children, compared to how Renoir in the real world, who was clearly a rich businessman himself, he did not have the same kind of empathy or the same kind of like I guess we can say symbiosis, I suppose, to his children. He saw them more as kind of assets of his family, more or less. But he loved them, yes, but, you know, I bet he spent all his day, like, working or something, so he didn't get to spend as much time with his kids or not. You know, very real-time, like, situation there. So, Aline knows all her children and loves them very dearly, right? She's unable to get over the grievance of losing Verso in the fire. So, she goes into one of the paintings that she taught Verso to paint when he was a child. When Verso was a child, he painted a painting, or several paintings possibly, where he implanted memories, ideas, his own imagination of his childhood ideas, fantasies, his toys, his, you know, make-believe animals, friends and whatnot. That's the kind of like characters that we see in this game. That's the Chestrals, the Grandises, the Nevrons, both the... Actually, wait, not the hostile Nevrons, we get to those later. All the life in here, essentially, was painted by Verso himself. And this also, for some reason, contains a piece of his soul, which is not explained as to how that part works. But the piece of his soul that is inside here, as well as his memories, which are painted in this person here, that is our imaginated version of Verso, which we play and, you know, interact throughout the game as. This is obviously not the real Verso from, you know, the Desandre family's real life. This is just a collection of memories from that person that was implanted into this world. And his memory was something that Aline wanted to preserve inside this painting above all else. Because in the Desandre family, Renoir, because he's more distant to his children, he believes that the best way, or he believed, and probably still believes, that the best way to get over a grievance is to part with the dead so that you can go on with the living. And there is necessarily nothing wrong with this ideology. Because, you know, if you are the one who pays the price by dying, then the worst thing you can cause to someone else is a life of grievance and mourning that they feel like they can't get out of. They feel like they can't live their life normally because of how big the loss of certain someone is. You know? Like, it's a very selfish, narcissistic thing to think that, you know, you should cause that much pain to somebody because they are unable to get over the loss of, you know, you as a person. As death is, you know, very natural and all that. So, Renoir's ideology doesn't have anything necessarily wrong with it. But I think his methods are a little extreme. But they were necessarily extreme also, which I'm gonna explain in a short moment here. Or actually just immediately. So Aline, because she's very close to her children and cares so much for all of them, she was unable to get over the grievance of Verso. So she went and found all of the paintings where Verso's pieces of Verso's soul or his memories could be possibly exist in. And she found this painting, not explained when, where, but it is explained that this is the last painting that has Verso's memories as well as part of his soul inside of it. Which is the reason as to why she is so unbelievably stubborn on giving up on this painting in particular, I would imagine. So, this world, the way it is, imagine this make-believe world would otherwise be the same, but there is no fracture in this land. Everything is still living in perfect harmony with the make-believe animals, beings, fantastical creatures, fantastic elements, and all of that. But then you introduce Aline and Renoir arguing in this world against each other on which or what is the best way to get over a grievance or their grievance as a family. Now their argument and their fighting got out of control so much to the point where the fracture in these lands happens. And that's where the island of Lumiere, why it was plunged from the heart of old Lumiere into the ocean. Now I can't explain as to why there's a dead oxen on old Lumiere. That is something that is undisclosed by the game. But that is also the reason, that fracture, as to why Aline got stuck inside the monolith and she was unable to somehow leave, which is not exactly explained either. Like, why is she unable to walk away from the monolith? It's not explained immediately as to why that is, but I came up with an idea that makes sense later, throughout the years. So, the Expedition Zero comes through from, you know, Lumiere when it was plunged into the ocean. All of the memories of what had happened were still on the Expedition Zero's shoulders. And I'm not sure if Verso or Renoir ever explained as to, you know, their other expeditioners on the Expedition Zero group, as to, you know, how this world actually existed, you know, burst their bubble. That's something that Verso never explained to us until it was, you know, narrated to us by the game developers as a, you know, meta way with using cinematics, cutscenes, and, you know, some dispositional dialogue yesterday. So, assuming that they keep their secret, they have their own expedition towards the monolith. That's why the Expedition Zero flags are the only flags that are found in the monolith area, because their expedition is the only expedition that actually found their way all the way there before. And then the Expedition Zero, I'm assuming either the real Renoir, which is the curator, or was the curator, you know, his lookalike, or the fake Renoir, which was created by, you guessed it, Aline. Aline created the fake version of both Alicia as well as Renoir. The reason as to why she did this was because she wanted to pretend that she was able to live peacefully with her family in this make-believe world. You notice how in Old Lumiere, when we first get in front of the manor, the door opens and we see their entire family inside the manor. We see the paintress, aka Aline, in her paintress form. We see Alicia in her burned and paintress form. And we see Renoir in his painted form, painted by Aline. So she lives in this make-believe world, pretending that she's still living with her entire family, as well as Verso, intact, and she wanted this reality to be real so badly that she refused to leave this world. And eventually, because she refused to leave this world, her powers against her real-world husband's powers, the real Renoir's powers, who is consistently throughout this game as well as the canon story of this world, he's trying to produce death in this world. He's trying to evaporate the entire painting without anything of it left. So he's the one that paints death, and Aline is the one that paints life, in short. And the reason as to why Renoir is unable to paint death and destroy this entire painting and everybody in it is because of the power of Aline. So Aline, as the paintress, is consistently using her absolutely magnificent pure chroma powers to keep everybody, or as many people and creatures in this world, alive and uncontaminated as possible. That explains the white Nevrons as well as the malformed Nevrons that attack the expeditioners and attack anything in sight. Because the Nevrons were never meant to be like that. They were literally just creatures that... Okay, here's the thing. You notice how the Nevrons, they have very normal, like, you know, weaponry. Like, there's Nevrons that carry trumpets. There's Nevrons that carry lampposts and walk around, producing light so that they can illuminate the streets and the, you know, wildlife of, you know, Clair Obscur in this main continent. Like, they are very, like, mundane with what their purpose is. Like, there's even Nevrons that are like blacksmiths, and Nevrons that carry like anchors for like ships, so that they can easily like, you know, pull the anchors back or whatever the heck, or not get stuck on like rocky outcrops when they are landing a ship or something, you know? Like, this world essentially is just a massive argument behind the Sandre family's wife and husband in a perpetual war against each other at this point. Neither side able to win over against the other. However, Leia says at the ending of our flashback, before we go into the painting as Mile, or as, you know, to become Mile as Alicia, which is the flashback, the Monolith Year 49 flashback from yesterday. So before we go into the painting, she says that... okay, I had a blank there for a second. Hold up. It's gonna come back in a moment. Yeah, so many things to talk about at once. It's kind of... it's very easy to forget. So... she says that try to not lose yourself in there. And then she says that if you do not calm yourself, you are gonna be born as one of her creations. And that's what happens. The humans in this game, they are made of pure chroma. They are made of the power of the paintress. An act of love, you know, towards this world. And I would imagine one of the reasons as to why she keeps birthing these new humans with her pure chroma is because she wants the humans both to thrive, but to have a chance of, well, probably just to thrive, to be honest. She doesn't want to, you know, she wants to paint life, you know? Simple explanation. She wants the humanity and the beings in here to thrive, to actually, like, enjoy what, like, the little privileges that they still have, despite Renoir, the real Renoir, trying his absolute hardest to destroy this painting and all the life in it. So, the reason as to why the clock ticks down, or the number on the monolith ticks down each year from 100 to 33 as we were right now, the reason as to why that happens is because her powers of controlling the pure chroma, they wane each year that she spends inside the painting. Each year there is more humans that have to die, her own creations that have to die. There is more Nevrons that will become twisted that she has to consume. There's more... she's simply becoming overwhelmed by her husband's powers of producing death, you know? And that is the reason as to why the year has to go down each year. She would lose the battle also. Leia hints at the start when Alicia is about to enter the painting that she has tipped the scales somehow in Renoir's favor, so that they can get their mother out of the painting and part with Verso for good. Destroy his painting, there's no memory of him left anymore, besides, you know, their memories in their heads. But the Desandre family's wife, Aline, is unable to accept this as a resolution, so she basically changed herself inside this painting, inside the monolith, unable for anybody to enter the monolith. That's the reason as to why the real Renoir, aka our curator, helps us and the other expeditioners when they get into these lands as much as he can. Now, here's a big pickle that I have with this. Why does the curator, aka Renoir, why would he not kill the auctions himself and construct this barrier-destroying weapon? Why would he not destroy the barrier so that he can go and kill his imaginary wife in this world and send her back into the real world? Now, that's a part that I don't really understand as to why he needs our help, to be honest. But assuming, or let's just assume video game logic, he needs our help, right? So, Aline has basically, like, she has basically closed herself inside the monolith, and anybody is unable to enter because of the barrier that was placed there. But here's the thing about the barrier. I wonder who made the barrier. That's never explained anywhere. Like, we know that there is Expedition Zero flags, as I explained, inside the monolith. But as to, you know, did Aline, with her pure chroma powers, create a barrier that literally only a pure chroma weapon of massive magnitude can break? Or did Renoir create the barrier so that Aline cannot exit her monolith? So the only thing that she can do in order to help the humans and the Nevrons that are living in these lands is to have a massive mountainside that she carves numbers in as a warning for all the people of this age that they are likely gonna have to die. In order for her to collect their pure chroma that she needs to upkeep this imaginary world still alive. That theory makes quite a bit of sense, or that hypothesis, that she carves this as a warning. It's also explained in the cinematic when everybody fades away and we get into the flashback with Mile or with Alicia inside the Desandre family's house. So that hypothesis actually holds very strong. So, does it really matter which side, if it was Renoir or Aline that created the barrier? But it would make more sense if Aline was the one that created the barrier, because she has a strong reason. Or, I mean, if the barrier is created, that also means she can't leave. But if the barrier is created, that means that Renoir can't enter the barrier and kill her wife easily either. You know, inside the painting. So that she gets plunged back in the real world. And they can continue, you know, living their life mostly, hopefully, normal after. So it doesn't matter which way around it actually is, because they both benefit from it, you know, depending which one of them created the barrier or didn't create the barrier. So it actually doesn't really matter which way it is. But, yeah, that is one honestly quite simple, like, story-wise as to why, you know, this game's world is the way it is. But if that is not a fascinating or interesting premise to have in a game, I don't know what is. It's honestly one of my favorite that I have seen in the past 4 years in any game. In fact, this actually probably is my favorite world inside a video game that I probably have seen in the last 4 years. Yeah. I think it is. Also, I'm gonna close the window, it's a bit chill here. Also, something I was questioning when I was looking at the highlights. Mile, when she gets gommaged by, you know, Renoir this time around when the paintress dies and Renoir collects all of the pure chroma from, you know, Aline's creations at the, you know, supposed end of the... Is this disconnecting? Oh, it is. Let me clean that. By blowing some pressure air on it. So, anyway, before I do that, when Mile dies, by the way of gommaging, when Renoir collects her pure chroma, to my understanding, probably not Aline, or whoever it is, I'm assuming it's Renoir though, would make a lot of sense. He also gathers a lot of power from it, to, you know, evaporate this world faster. The reason as to why he has not obliterated this entire world yet is because his powers have waned from his fight against, you know, his wife. So he's weaker than he was before, because, you know, all of this, like, exhaustive fighting and argumenting that he's had to do makes sense. Now, when we see Mile the next time after the flashback of the Monolith Year 49, when she, you know, enters or had entered the painting, and we see her story, you know, as Mile, as we see in this game. When she dies by the way of gommage, I'm assuming that when she gets plunged away from, you know, this existence as Mile, and she comes back as Alicia, she has the memories from her 16 years of life inside this painting with her, when she's inside this painting, as Mile, but she also has the memories of Alicia. So she's both Alicia and Mile. She has the knowledge and the expertise of Alicia, and she has the memories, knowledge, and expertise of Mile both. So that explains as to why she's able to be both at the same time. Now, as to why SQA Monaco and Verso, or especially like SQA and Monaco, as to how they were so accepting of the idea that, you know, Alicia or our Mile is both a paintress as well as her creation. Now, that is something that I think they knew the entire time around. Like, the entire story. They have a lot of hints that they don't want to tell her, for the same reason as to why Verso never spills the beans to her as well. There's some suggestive dialogue that points that direction from both SQ8 and Monaco throughout the story that I have heard, that point in that direction, that, you know, they also know that Mile is not, you know, how she seems, but they just don't tell her either. They respect Verso's decision of not telling, so they don't tell either. So, that is why, you know, Mile is both Alicia and Mile from this point on in the story. But, as of right now, I guess we're gonna fight our way back to Lumiere, because, you know, we saw that the Gomashing, or, you know, her father appears at Lumiere, and we are very, very far away. Like, we are literally on the northest point possible, like, from Lumiere right now in the main continent somewhere. Inside this camp. So we have to somehow find our way here, all the way back to south into the island of Lumiere, and get rid of her father away, from this painting. And when we defeat her father from the painting, then he's also likely gonna be in the same, you know, drowse from, like, the, you know, being prolonged time inside the painting, so he's also unable to enter the painting. And that is the time when, you know, Alicia runs away from this painting herself, willingly, and hides the painting from her parents so that she can, you know, spend the rest of her life inside this painting with the, you know, people that she has actually grown up with loving, you know. People in Lumiere, people like Gustav, you know. Actually, the game might give us a choice, but we'll see when we go all the way there, you know. But I think that's likely what's gonna happen from this point in the game forward. Then again, this game could turn into a complete, like, Nier Automata right now. Seeing as, you know, what Mile is. Like, they might do an absolutely crazy spin on the combat in this game. Which I would not even be that surprised about. It would be a very nice surprise, but we'll see about that. I guess I'm hyping it too much now, but